Good evening. How is everyone? They've given me this Britney mic because those of you who know me a bit more know that it's literally impossible for me to speak without moving my hands. Like, I'll be dancing around the stage, Michael McIntyre style, probably at some point. It's great to be here. I've been a couple of weeks out from a Sunday evening. You bring me a water. Oh, thank you so much. That's really kind. I will need that. Thank you. I've been away for a couple of weeks. It's been amazing, actually, just to be here this evening, just to sit down here or stand down here in the worship. Rachel, you guys did an awesome job. Josh, you always do an awesome job. It's just amazing to be here, to be in this community of people, to be in this family of people, just worshiping together. And one of the reasons why I've been away for a couple of weeks is because I went to America. I've been to Chicago, United States of America. That's as good as it's going to get. And I went with a couple of guys from the church here, Nigel and Jill, who are sat over there, James and Sam Cooper, who is sat at the back. And we went out to America for about 10 days just to visit the other churches out there, to meet their worship teams, and to just start connections with different musicians, different worship leaders across in America. And I have to say I fully embraced America for everything that it is, which means that I ate quite a lot of food. I've come back significantly heavier than I left. And we were, I want to tell you a little story. We were down in St. Louis, which is where the Tanners are. Oh, come on, you guys are from St. Louis. Amazing. Who knows the Tanners? Luke and Anne-Louise. So they are down in St. Louis, and we were with them, staying with them, and Luke had organized a football match between basically me and Sam and him, and a whole load of young people from his church. So it was England versus USA, and I don't even know what the score was, Sam. I don't know if we did very well or not. 25-0. Yeah, it was a comprehensive victory for England, which never usually happens, so that's good. And we were running around playing football and having a great time. And then afterwards, obviously being in America, we've done a bit of exercise, so we need to get back into the American way of living. So we went for a barbecue. And we went round to an amazing house, a couple who were part of the church there, and we had a barbecue. We had steaks, I don't know, like this big. They were like chicken and pork and stuff. It was incredible. And we went, we ate it all, and we had a really good time. And then we were just leaving. And just as we were about to leave the house, sometimes, those of you who know me a bit more, I get this like really playful kind of like 8-year-old child mode, which just flicks on. And I want to do stupid things and run around and play with people's hair and steal Ed's hat and all sorts of just ridiculous things that nobody finds funny except me. And I have a really good time. And just as we were about to leave, James was there, who was drumming tonight. The guy who we were staying with, or the guy whose house we were in, I just said to him, "Hey, do you have any guns? Because, we're in America. Do you have any guns?" And he just kind of like, his face lit up. I was like, yeah, I do. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'd like to see them, please, and play James Bond style. So he took us downstairs into the basement, which is like just this amazing other part of a house in North America. Basements are incredible. Just wonderful, wonderful basements. And we went downstairs and went into this cupboard, went into like this vault and unlocked the vault. And inside were loads of these really cool guns. And really cool guns. Listen to me. This is literally me just fulfilling, I'm in a movie. Like, look, this is like an M16. And I was like, no way. I'm making machine gun noises. Like, and I found myself holding this gun, right? And it didn't have a clip in it, and it wasn't loaded. It didn't have any bullets in it. I know that it didn't have any bullets. James will testify to this. He was in the room, probably quite scared. But we were enjoying kind of looking at these guns. They were pretty cool. For British people, we never see them, and it just feels like we're in a film. But I was really, really aware of the fact that I was holding a gun. And at no point, I just kind of like, in my playing, just kind of moved it. And James was stood here. And I was just like, oh, no, like this is a gun. Like, I can't aim this anywhere near James or anywhere near Sam or anywhere near anyone else because it's a gun, because it's powerful, it's a weapon. And just found myself being really, really, really aware of where I was aiming, of what I was aiming at. And this is a bit of a long-winded story, I get it. But I was thinking about this on the flight home, and just I knew I was speaking tonight, and I was just preparing. And God started talking to me just about what are you aiming at, Andy? Where are you aiming? Where are you aiming your life? Where are you aiming your affection? Where are you aiming your attention? Where are you aiming things? And I found myself just in this last week really just mulling over this. Where am I aiming at? What am I aiming at? And so that's the title of my talk. Where are you aiming? Look, I got a little bullseye in there. Oh, I thought it was pretty cool. Like very artistic, but very creative. Andy Williams, creative. I spell it C-R-8-I-F because I'm creative. So yeah, where are you aiming? So that's kind of the title of this talk, if you like. As a worship leader, I'm the worship pastor here, just a real honor and a privilege to be the worship pastor here. It's just amazing to be part of this family and to serve with a community of people, community of musicians who are just passionate about worshiping Jesus. So if you're here for the first time, I'm usually stood somewhere here singing songs to various degrees of success. And it's something that for me as a worshiper, not just a worship leader, but a worshiper, that I really kind of think about very often. Where am I aiming? What am I pointing towards? It's kind of like I wake up in the morning and it's, God, what am I aiming at today? Where are you in this day? Where are you today? What are you doing? What are you speaking to me about? How can I listen to you? How can I respond to you? And I wanted to talk a little bit tonight just about worship outside of this context, worship outside of this building, outside of this band and music, and also what's happening right now. What's happening right now is worship. The worship doesn't stop when the music stops. When we're receiving tithes and offerings and we're giving our money, that's our worship. When we're sat here and we're listening to Josh or Kara or whoever's speaking, that's our worship. It doesn't just start when the music starts and stop when the music stops. It's something that I say to the band every week. Our worship doesn't start when we step on that stage, and it doesn't end when we leave it. It continues every second of every day, I believe. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what worship looks like outside of this context. For me, it's something that I'm really, really passionate about. I want to be able to drop music at an instant. Because actually I'm not pursuing music, I'm pursuing Jesus, I'm pursuing God. And this doesn't, me as a worship leader, doesn't equate to playing the guitar or singing a song. God spoke to me really clearly when I was about 19 and said, hey Andy, you're going to be leading worship 90% of the time without a musical instrument in your hand, when you're nowhere near a stage or nowhere near a microphone that's louder than anyone else's. And kind of what it comes down to is the call on us all is to lead worship, I believe, with everything, with every minute of every day, and to worship with everything we've got. But it's really difficult to know what that looks like, right? It's kind of like, well, what does that mean? Do I need to carry a guitar around with me just in case? Or do I need to just listen to some music or anything like that? What does that practically mean? And I believe that everyone is a worshiper. I believe that everyone is built to worship. Whether you are a Christian or not, I think you only have to look outside in Southgate and see lots of people worshiping lots of different things. And whether it's your phone or the clothes that you're wearing or the person in your relationship or your favorite actor or your celebrities, it's just a classic example of worship, really. And I believe that everyone worships something. And so everyone's built to worship. Actually, I feel like worship's probably something that is fairly easy to slip into and fairly easy to do. So what does that look like for us? What does that look like worshiping all the time? And I believe that we're created to worship. I believe that we're created to be loved and created to worship. And in Colossians 1:16, I think it's up, hopefully. It says, for in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. And it's those last couple of words right at the end, all things have been created through him and for him, that really get me. So this is Paul talking about Jesus, and what he's saying is there isn't anything that's been created that wasn't made through Jesus and for him. Everything was created for worship. Everything was created to give him and bring him glory. If I painted a picture, it wouldn't be very good, but it would point to me as the creator, as I've painted a beautiful picture that will sell for hundreds of thousands of pounds. How good that picture is isn't really important. Actually, the fact that it's been created by me means that it points and reflects to me. It's me that went into the picture, and that picture reflects something of me. It reflects something of the Creator. So as we were created, we reflect something of the Creator, and I think you see that in Eden, and I think you see that with the whole meta-narrative of the Bible. You see a God who created something and created humanity with promise and purpose, and through our own actions and through sin, we didn't worship. We gave worth to what the serpent was saying over to what God had said, and we chose to go a different path. And then the rest of the Bible is about God getting back into relationship with his children. So we were created for intimacy, and we were created for love, and we were created for worship. And so if all things were created through him, then I believe that a cow was created for purpose and to reflect something of the Creator. And I believe that a cow is worshiping because it's doing what a cow was meant to do, what a cow was made to do. That's what I believe. I believe that a mountain, just by being a mountain, just because God said, I'm going to make a mountain right here, boom. I believe that mountain is worshiping because it's just being a mountain. It's being what it was created to be. It's being what it was made to be with the purpose that God had in mind when he created it. I'm going to build a mountain right here. The mountain's being a mountain, and it's worshiping by being that mountain. I believe that if you look into the solar system, if you look at planets and galaxies and moons and stars, that they are worshiping because they are being what God created them to be. When God created and breathed out in Genesis, that let there be light, and there was, and he spoke creation out into being. He did it to reflect his glory. And I believe, I think a lot of worshipers, you only have to go outside and look at creation and look at the stars. There's nothing that I like doing more than looking at solar system documentaries on YouTube. It's really sad. But honestly, has anyone seen Wonders of the Solar System? Okay, you need to watch it. It's incredible, and I find myself watching this TV show about galaxies and about stars and how they were formed and how they were made, and I find myself just being unable to not worship. I don't know what I've done there. There's a million double negatives, but I find myself just having to worship. I have to worship God when I see creation, when I see what he's made, and when I see what he's built and what he's done. And so if a cow is worshiping because it's being a cow, it's being what it was made to do, made to be. If a mountain is worshiping because it's being a mountain, what it was made to be. And if a planet's worshiping by being a planet. And last time I spoke, I actually played some, they've managed to capture the sound of planets through, I think, capturing radio waves or something. It's very clever. But you can actually go on YouTube and you can listen to the sound that a planet makes. And, when the psalmist says, if we don't praise, the rocks cry out in worship and sing their songs of worship. Again, it might be something for you to just have a listen to. But if these things are all doing, or all worshiping God just simply by being the things that they were created to be, then I believe that's got to be the same for us. And it has, of course it has something to do with this. Of course it has something to do with corporate worship and being together, being community, being together as the church. That's what the church is all about. But it also looks like Monday morning or Wednesday afternoon or Friday night or Saturday night, or whatever the rest of your week looked like. It's more than just this moment here. It's more than just singing a song. And it's more than just that tingly feeling that you get when God's here. God's here in the room. It's more than that. We're created for more than that. We're created with purpose, to be more than just a group of people that gather together and have a party for ourselves and then go away. And for me, the most defining Bible verse about worship, the one that shaped my understanding of worship more than any other, is John 4. And you've got Jesus. I've not written this down, so I'll have to turn around and read it with you. But you've got Jesus with this Samaritan woman at the well. And Jesus says, woman, believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet the time is coming and has now come when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For they are the kind of worshippers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshippers must worship in spirit and in truth. And I've read loads and loads of books on worship and on worship leading and on music and on how to be a better worship leader and all these different things. And most of them tackle this, and especially verse 23. True worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, and they tackle it from a Holy Spirit angle. But really what Jesus is talking about here, the Greek word means your spirit. He's talking about your spirit. So he's saying a really good way of translating this is true worshippers will worship in identity and reality. And you'll hear me talk about this all the time because this is just me. This is who I am. This is where I'm at. And I don't know if I can really get away from this, but it's identity and reality. It's just who you are right now in this very moment and where you're at, whatever's going on in your life. That's what Jesus is calling. He's saying there's a time coming and has now come when true worshipers will worship who they are, exactly who they are, where they're found. Doesn't matter how you're feeling. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Doesn't matter what's going on in your life. That and where you are, your surroundings, what that feels like, what that looks like, where you are. And I was thinking about this whole kind of like, well, if a planet's being a planet and worshiping by being a planet, then what does that mean for us? And I think Josh kind of hit the nail on the head tonight when just talking about sonship. And I believe that we were created for sonship. We were created for relationship and for intimacy with our Father. The Greek word most often used for worship in the New Testament means to kiss. Worship is intimacy by default. You can't worship without intimacy. And the English word worship obviously just means to just give worth to something. And if I were to give worth to someone, then it enters me into relationship and intimacy with that person. As soon as I give them weight, as soon as I listen to their words and they ask me to do something, and because I'm giving their words worth, I will respond and I'll do it. I enter into a relationship with them. And so I think sonship and is so important for worship. Actually, I think we're at our worshiping best when we are right where we need to be in terms of I'm just a son and a daughter of God. It doesn't have to be in this room, and it doesn't have to be singing a song. But what that really looks like is tomorrow morning when you wake up and you go to work. What are you working out from? Where are you aiming? Where are you aiming? Where's your arrow pointing? Is it, you know what, like, it's just easier to just do this out of my own strength, or it's just easier to ignore that problem that I know you're talking to me about, God, or it's just easier to not do that, or not say that, or just I'm going to gossip, or I'm going to do any of these things. What worship is when we're a son and a daughter, then we enter into a relationship with a Father who loves us and cares for us and will speak to us. And I think that worship is, if you're called to be a teacher, then your worship is you being a teacher, and you doing it knowing who you are, knowing that you're a son or a daughter of God. And if you're called to be a scientist, if you're called to research into different scientific areas, then you can do that in full worship, in spirit and in truth, in identity and reality, knowing who you are, whose you are. And if you're here and you're having a hard day or a hard week, your worship is no less than it is if you're on top of the world, if you're on top of a mountain. Jesus isn't calling here. He's not calling perfect people who've got it all made and all sorted. He's calling people just to come as they are. And that's the worshipers that he wants. They're the worshipers that he wants. And honestly, that's where I come from every time I lead worship. I know what it's like. I know it's sometimes easier to kind of sit and go, the people up on the stage, they got it all sorted. I promise you, and I can speak from experience that we don't, and I haven't. But I stand here even now, just as a son. I've got nothing to prove and nothing to lose, and so for each and every one of us, I think that tonight there's a calling into a greater understanding of worship, more than here, more than a song, more than that feeling that you get, more than when you're just listening to a podcast or when you're listening to some music. But it's actually something which is intrinsically built into relationship with you and the Father. And for you to be first and foremost found in that relationship. This is where I am. This is where I live. This is who I am. This is everything that I've got. I'm pretty much done. I'm just going to pray. We're not going to sing any songs. The response to this is in tomorrow morning. It's in what happens tomorrow. How do you face tomorrow? Where are you aiming tomorrow? So if you want to stand, I'm just going to pray. And I just in worship I felt like. I just felt like there was people here this evening who are doing a job. You're doing a job that you love and that you really enjoy, and you feel, from in a sense, kind of called to, but you don't see the validation in it, in terms of you don't see how this fits into God's plan for your life. You enjoy it, but you don't see how this could possibly be worship. You don't see how this could possibly be something that is actively ministry, if you like. I just felt like one of the things that I just wanted to make really clear tonight, if possible, was that whatever you're doing, if you're called to do it, if you're worshiping in identity and reality, so if you're called to be a teacher, then you can be a teacher, fully worshiping God, fully worshiping Jesus, fully in relationship with him. Wherever that is, if that's working in Tesco's or wherever, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that God's called you there, and you're a son and a daughter first and foremost. If that's you, come and have a chat with me, just down there, I guess, at the end of the meeting. I'd love to just talk to you and just pray for you. But I'm just going to pray. Holy Spirit, we just invite you into the room again right now, and we invite you here not because you've left and not because you've vanished, but actually we're just turning our affection and our attention back on you, and this is our worship. And Jesus, we want to know you more and more and more every day. And Father, would you just expand our understanding of what worship is? Would you expand our understanding of what it is to worship you in spirit and in truth, in identity and reality, and just to know you more and more? And Father, as we leave this place, as we leave tonight, we know that our worship doesn't end when we leave this building. It doesn't end when the music stops. But our conversations home with our friends is still an opportunity to worship. How we enter the workplace tomorrow, or our lectures, or wherever we're going, is an opportunity to worship tomorrow. how we talk to our friends, to our family, is an opportunity to worship and reflect your glory, because we're created to reflect who you are. So Father, I just thank you that our worship doesn't stop. It's not finished. And we're called to worship with every single breath that we've got. In Jesus' name, amen.